That's really great. Hey, YouTube. Oh, whoa, that something just happened. We just turn the volume up. We all good? All right. Now I think we're working now, which is. He did not practice again today. We will obviously continue to, figure out what's going on there as the week goes on. And Dan Quinn had said, hey, I'll have the latest update on Friday. So at this point, we're just kind of waiting for DQ. But at the end of the day, looks, Anthony, like we're going to be seeing Marcus Mariota coming up this weekend for the Commanders. So you'll hear Cliff Kingsbury in just a moment on that. Also coming up today, we will have the last of our Wizards preseason interviews because, well, we're out of days until the Wizards play. That's why, if you're watching on YouTube, you see me here at Capital One Arena. See behind me, there's 6th Street right there. In front of me, there's an arena with lots of T-shirts on seats, ready for a season opener. And you will hear from one of the keys to the Wizards season, Jayden Poole, coming up at 4:30. You will hear from head coach Brian Keefe coming up at 5:30. And then to close the show today, my conversation with Wizards general manager Will Dawkins. So lots of good stuff coming here on the Team 980. Let's start though with Cliff Kingsbury and the Commanders offensive coordinator today, talking about how he's kind of preparing this week and what needs to happen if Marcus Mariota's playing, on how Marcus played last time. But let's start off if there's any changes if Marcus Mariota is the starting quarterback on Sunday.
Have him that they can go operate. Marcus hadn't taken a snap with our offense in 68 days prior to the game, and came in and performed really at a high level and made a bunch of plays. So that was good to see, and it takes a unique person and player to do that. And so we feel really good about trying to get him some reps this week, and we're just going to take it from there.
So, okay, got that. Excellent. Good to know. Hey, it's been a while. We got to figure it out. And I think that's actually an important note from Cliff Kingsbury. It was like, for as many reps as Marcus Mariota got in the spring when he was technically the number one guy and in the competition with Jayden, and for as many as they gave him in the summer to try to make sure that they were prepared for situations like this, it had been a while. And I think also, it took me a while covering the league to really understand just how specific game plans can be and tailored to quarterbacks. And so while there is a ton of crossover between Jayden Daniels and Marcus Mariota in terms of what you would want an offense to look like, you'd want a heavy feature on the zone read game. You would want, obviously a good running game to support them. You want to be able to get them on the move and use their athleticism. Both guys have quick releases, so like some of the screen game stuff is always really beneficial. There are really big important differences between the two and how each plays quarterback that are essential to the Commanders maximizing Marcus Mariota versus how the offense installed for the game against Carolina looked for Jayden Daniels. And I think the biggest difference is how you would get each guy going. And the beauty of Jayden is he kind of does everything well in his own way. He has a very quick release. He's a great processor. He's very, very on rhythm. We know that he is someone who has gotten the ball out of his hands at one of the fastest rates in the NFL. And it's not just because they're throwing all these screens and whatever. Like, he actually sees the game that quickly, and they have these really good quick game concepts that he's really comfortable throwing. Marcus is not a rhythm thrower. If you watch the game on Sunday, you know that. If you went back and studied Marcus based off what he used to be, you know that as well. Marcus is a guy that is good at creating off schedule. I'm going to say good, not great. He's very capable of creating off schedule. It can ebb and flow a little bit. But he definitely wants to see it a little bit more before he throws it. The anticipation's not as high. And he's not this, rhythm passer that I think people would think maybe he was going to be coming out of Oregon because he got the ball out really quickly and, all the things that he did with Chip up there. But just in the NFL, it's not this short game, quick rhythm type of stuff. I'd rather get him some isolation routes, let him play against some man-to-man situations, and see if I can create that kind of offense for Marcus when he's got to throw. And then obviously you have the run game that is going to be the main feature. So that, to me, is the biggest difference of the comparison between the two. Jayden, hey, how do we get him going? Let's get him some quick game stuff. Let's do all that. And I think you saw last week, the way to get Marcus Mariota going is run him. And so I'd expect a heavy dose of Brian Robinson early. I'd expect Jeremy McNichols and Austin Eckler on the field early. I'd expect some quarterback run early. I'd expect maybe some reverses, some stuff to kind of get the defense off track. But it is definitely a situation where the offense will be, yes, it will be less optimal for the offense because they have to face the Chicago Bears instead of the Carolina Panthers. It will be more optimal for Marcus Mariota this week because the play calling will be geared, like the game plan will be geared towards him versus what it would be for Jayden Daniels out there. That said, Marcus played great on Sunday in so many ways. So how surprised was Cliff Kingsbury that his backup went out and led a 40-point outing?
No, just because I've seen the professionalism, I've seen the work he puts in, but all those reps he was getting was just the scout team. He's working the scout team, but you see the preparation. I saw how he operated in the spring, and it was basically like, hey, go do what you do. We weren't trying to hold him back or say, hey, play it safe. It was like, we're going to cut you loose, play fast, and go get after him. And that's what he does best, and I think he just embraced the moment. And he's only 30, he's still a tremendous talent, and yeah, I think his best football is still ahead of him. I've told him that. I mean,
that's pretty significant from Cliff. Hey, your best football is still ahead of you. And I think that's how guys like Cliff, guys like Dan have inspired belief, is like they really pour into their guys in a major way. And so we'll see what they can do. I do also think that there is some truth to the fact that this is the first time Marcus has ever played in a system quite this tailored to his skill set. This is a guy that out of Oregon, like very, very highly touted, obviously Heisman Trophy winner, the whole deal, and then got stuck in a bunch of pro offenses. And he was under center and handing the ball off to Derrick Henry, which is there are worse places to be as an NFL quarterback. But if you're trying to maximize the quarterback output, that's not necessarily how I would want to play that quarterback. Here he's going to be in the shotgun more. There's going to be some more spread. There's going to be some things that he's used to. And another one of kind of Cliff Kingsbury's superpowers is his ability to create space. And if you give Marcus these clean visual lanes, because there's a ton of space on the field, especially against the Chicago defense that, for as good as it is, can be a little bit predictable at times. So if you can get in some good down and distances where you kind of know what their answer is going to be, they might play it well, but a cover 3 beater is going to beat cover 3 a lot. And there's going to be some space there. And so I think that is going to be really fun to watch and see how Marcus Mariota plays this weekend, assuming that he does. Again, this could all be for naught. We could have spent all this time on Marcus Mariota in hypothetical land, and then Jayden Daniels practices tomorrow, and he continues to heal because he's 23 years old. And when you're 23 years old, you heal a lot faster than, say, if you're 32. And then he's, it's not a big deal. But I do think if Dan Quinn doesn't fully rule out Jayden tomorrow, I think we probably know by Saturday, because if they don't rule Jayden out, or if they're going to rule Jayden out, they're probably going to bring Sam Hartman back up off the practice squad to activate him for the week. And if he is not out, well, then Sam Hartman's not going to get activated. And Jayden, maybe he's the emergency 3, but to me, it's like he either plays or he doesn't. There's no messing around on that. So that's where we're at. Latest from Command Land on Marcus Mariota. We can take a few calls if you want next, 301-230-0980. Then coming up at 4:30, Jordan Poole joins me on the Hoffman Show. We're live at Capital One Arena on the Team 980 and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. This is good news, especially for the Craig Hoffman fantasy team. Anthony, did you see the breaking news out of LA?
Puka's back.
Puka Nacua has been activated off IR, and he was not going to have a full slate of reps tonight against the Vikings. But the Rams feel good about his knee, and he'll play. So that's cool.
Uh-oh. You got Puka back. Kupp is back. I don't know. I think we got to talk about this game. We got to make sure we get our pick in.
I mean, we could do that right now.
Okay.
If you wanted to. Now I got to look at my wide receiver. I'm like, do I want to? I mean, here's the thing about Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, with the way that Sean runs things down there. A light outing for them won't be a full slate of reps. Oh, so we'll only get 15 targets instead of 38? That's kind of how he rolls. By the way, for those that are listeners of the show every day, all day, and are awaiting to hear the news on Competition Wednesday, I did pick Anthony's fantasy sub. He had Joe Mixon in as a starting running back. By the way, Competition Wednesday, Anthony yesterday spun the wheel because he did not have a perfect week, unfortunately for him. I did. He 2-1, very valiant. I'm trying to do this as nicely as I can, Anthony. But you ultimately had to spin the wheel as it's still sitting there behind you. And it landed on fantasy sub. And so I get to make a sub on Anthony's fantasy team in our show league. And I had him sit Joe Mixon, who's going against his beloved Colts. So I'm actually helping you emotionally, as you don't have to, like, if Joe Mixon and Zaire are in the hole, you can now just wholeheartedly root for Zaire.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be the thought. You know, when I play fantasy and my friends are involved, I more so try to think of, I want them to go out there and do everything in their power, you know, put up the greatest numbers and still come out victoriously, while all the same being, whoever I have in my fantasy team still went off.
Yeah, that's not going to be possible when it's a running back and a linebacker. So I took that off the table for you, and you now have Nick Chubb starting at running back. Which there are worse things that could have done to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, you know what? That's not heinous.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool with me.
Okay, that's good. All right, so I got Devontae. He can't he had 9 targets last week. He's not going to have another poopsie fantasy week if Aaron Rodgers is going to throw him the ball 9 times, right?
Nope. Nah, he's going to have I think he's going to go off.
Okay. JJ. And then my flex is Romeo Doubs right now. Do I pull Puka off of IR for Romeo Doubs?
I think if you're playing, you're healthy.
That's kind of my thought.
Yeah.
But Dobbs is also going against Jacksonville.
Yeah, so there's a chance, but they also have just so many young weapons out
That's a
there.
good point. All right, Puka.
Yeah, I will go with Puka.
You got okay. So hold on. If I have to then make a lineup thing, can someone who's suspended go on IR? Because Jamison Williams is dumb butt or unlucky if he says that it's something that he can't believe that it happened to him. I gotta figure out how to do this. Who do I want to drop?
You can send them to me.
Jamison Williams?
Yeah.
I don't really want to though.
Okay.
I don't know who I want to drop. And I currently have 3 quarterbacks. The problem is I need this done by tonight. Anthony, tell you what. At 4:30, we're going to play our interview with Jordan Poole. And during that, if you want to submit a trade that somehow we can figure out, I guess I don't know how I'm going to open up a roster spot with a trade, but
Could be a 2-for-1.
well, I would need to give up 2.
Exactly.
So you're going to have to give me someone good. But if we can figure it out, I mean, right now I got 3 quarterbacks that are pretty good. I got Caleb, I got Dak, and I got Justin Herbert.
We'll see.
Yeah, I got some stuff that I'm willing to give up. That I would package. I will say this: anyone who's in our fantasy league that is listening right now, I'm open for business right now. In a 2-for-1, you have to take the suspended Jamison Williams and someone else, and I want someone good in return. But I need to open up a roster spot for Puka Nacua, and I'm open for business. So it is a show fantasy league. I'm going to use the show to help the fantasy league here. Get your trade proposals in as soon as you can, and I'm going to try to make a decision in the next hour and change because, I want Puka Nacua on the field tonight, and I need to get this done. Is there a waiting process? Is this something that can happen instantly? I don't remember how our league works.
You can push it through. You're the commissioner.
That is
you can
true.
Push it through.
That is true, but that feels a little like cheating.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's good when other people have trades and you push them through right away as well. But
yeah, I'll try not to be a jerk about that. It's not my fault that Puka Nacua got activated 3 hours before the game.
yeah,
That wasn't like floating to be happening, right? All the talk was about Cooper Kupp, and now all of a sudden here's Puka Nacua. I didn't miss a memo.
I mean, he caught everybody by surprise.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm open for business. That's what I'm gonna say. Jamison Williams plus someone else on my team for one of your really good players.
You want a Garrett Wilson?
Oof. I already have Devontae.
I know.
That would you know what that would honestly be? That would be a bet on them trading Garrett Wilson.
Yep.
Which isn't the worst bet I would have ever made. It's a little tempting. But also, I'm pretty loaded at receiver. I kind of want a running back.
I have 4.
Who's your best one?
I mean, it depends. Do you like Brees? Do you like Joe? Do you like James Cook? You like Nick Chubb?
No, I definitely don't like Nick Chubb. That's why I put him in your lineup.
Nick Chubb, after this week, I think he's gonna be good.
I think the Browns are a bit of a mess. I know that they're going to be less a mess without Watson, but like they're still kind of a mess.
I feel like Chubb, Derrick Henry.
And by the way, their OC doesn't like to run the football.
True. That's a great point.
Yeah, it was one thing. Nick Chubb with Bill Callahan?
Yeah.
Sign me up. Nick Chubb with, who is it, Alex Van Pelt? No, it's Ken Dorsey. He replaced Alex Van Pelt. Ken Dorsey? No thanks, bro.
Yeah. Not good.
Ken Dorsey no longer in Buffalo, which makes James Cook a little interesting. I don't know if it's 2-for-1 interesting. Mixon's tempting, but someone make me a trade. My watch hasn't gone off yet. My phone hasn't buzzed. Someone make me a trade offer.
We only got a couple of more weeks too.
Yeah. So I'm willing. Jamison Williams plus someone who's good. Someone needs a quarterback. You're on a bye week. I got Dak. I got Justin Herbert. I got Caleb Williams. And honestly, I'd part with any of them.
It sounds good, man.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of injury news, the official injury report is in for the Commanders on a Thursday. Brandon Coleman did not practice again with a concussion. Jayden Daniels, rib, DNP. We talked about that off the top of the show. Cleveland Ferrell. This one kind of sucks, Anthony. He was limited yesterday, DNP today. I definitely don't love that. That's not good. You don't want guys to go from limited to DNP. That's the wrong direction. Nick Allegretti, Dorrance Armstrong, Tyler Biotish, De'Ami Brown, Dante Fowler, Cornelius Lucas, Tyler Owens, all limited. Derek Forrest, don't like this. Participated yesterday, limited today. Often that means the injury happened in practice and he left practice early. So the good news on the safety front is Tyler Owens is getting back. The bad news is Derek Forrest looks like he's going the other direction, so we'll see what happens to him. And then Emmanuel Forbes was also listed. He has a thumb injury. Let me actually check, because the Bears, they've got a couple of key injuries. And I was having a conversation with Dan Wiederman of the Chicago Tribune yesterday, and he is the host of Take the North. And actually, this is a conversation that everyone listening can hear tomorrow in the Take Command feed. Just podcasts that take things, Anthony. That was kind of the running joke, because he's Take the North, which is the Take Command of Chicago, and I'm Take Command, the Take Command of D.C. And I was talking about how special teams could play a big role in this game this weekend, because the Commanders have been really, really good in that realm. Like, they hit the mess out of people. Their return game has been really good. So is there a chance? And he goes, you want to know what? That's actually a really good point. One, Chicago's had a couple of special teams whoopsies. Two, a couple of their top defensive backs have been limited or hurt. Like, one, they have their long snapper has been banged up. He's a full participant for the second straight day. But, a long snapper participating in practice, like, they barely practice anyway. They could go full out the way long snappers practice. But a couple of their top defensive backs are out. And potentially, if they're out for the game, that means some of the guys that are replacement level, that are their top special teamers, are going to have to play more on defense. And then, obviously, you have practice squad level guys that come up and play on special teams. So I actually wonder. And then, so I look at the practice report today, and sure enough, Jaquan Brisker, who we actually heard Dan Quinn talk about specifically yesterday, he remains out with a concussion. That's not a good sign. Kyler Gordon, who's one of the better nickel players in the league, he remains out with a hamstring. And then Tyreek Stevenson, who also is one of their DBs, and He's had a bit more of an up-and-down year. He's had some big plays made on him. But he's limited with a calf. So 3 of their top 5, 6 DBs all out. And then they've got a couple other guys who, like Terrell Smith was limited yesterday. He's a full participant today, but down the roster a little bit. So Chicago's got its own injury issues here across the ball from Marcus Mariota, if he's the one that's playing, that – don't all of a sudden make you feel super warm and fuzzy inside. It's that, if obviously, one, you don't want to feel warm and fuzzy about other people's injuries because you're a human being and your mom taught you better than that. 2, it's not like it's Montez and Brisker and Jalen Johnson and, but definitely some key guys, Ant, that I think could affect this game.
Yeah, and that will be huge for Washington because, again, we already know the strength of the Bears' defense so far, anyway, has been their defense. That's how they've been able to get going while Caleb figures things out. But also just not being able to play with the same guys on the back end, that sort of kind of messes with the communication. And we know how huge that is. So, I mean, I'm not saying, I want those guys to be out. But if they're out, I mean, that's a plus for Washington. And, we don't have to stress as much about their defense because we know what their defense is.
I think it's been interesting, too, diving into more of the numbers as we get later in the week, and I do more and more prep for this. Like, they're okay against the run. They're actually not that great. They're actually, them and Washington are right next to each other. And Washington's up in the top half now in EPA per play against the run. So they've definitely, kind of settled after some of the early season nightmares in that Baltimore game. But the performance they put on against Carolina, and frankly, even the performance they put on against Baltimore probably helped them because Baltimore had been so good that Washington did better than average against them. And that's what EPA is ultimately about. They weren't great, but they were better than other teams against Baltimore. And they've gotten their way back up in the top half. But Chicago's kind of right there, I think it's like 12 and 13. Washington's 12, Chicago's 13. But a big part of that is Brisker. His ability to be in the box as a safety, kind of like Jeremy Chin is for Washington. But also their secondary has been locked down against the pass. They're the second best defense on EPA per play against the pass this year. Part of that's their pass rush has had some success, and they got a bunch of dudes that are winning one-on-ones up front, and two, their DBs have been locked down. And if a bunch of those guys are out, that seems to change the math a little bit. So we'll see what happens on Sunday, and obviously tomorrow around this time we should be getting game statuses, so we'll know a lot more then. When we get back, though, we're live at Capital One Arena. We have for you the first exclusive sit-down here on Wizards Week of this Thursday, the day that the Wizards season debuts on the Team 980. Jayden Poole, this was my favorite interview from Media Day. I thought Jayden was really interesting. One, he was funny, and there was a lot of funny stuff, but it was also reflective, and there's some good basketball talk. So you'll hear that interview next here on the Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, where we have a very fancy For the District background now behind us. So You're welcome. You're welcome for this beautiful blue behind us. And now it's going to disappear because we're going to play for you an interview that we taped back on Media Day with Jordan Poole. It's Wizards Week and it's Wizards Day here on the Team 980. Of course, Dave Johnson, Glenn Consor on the call tonight as the Wizards host the Celtics here at Capital One Arena. And the last time I was here was for Wizards Media Day, and I got to sit down with the Wizards guard who had a pretty rough start to his Wizards career. Really turned things around kind of quietly at the end of last year because nobody was paying attention to the Wizards, and then took that momentum into the offseason and is ready to prove that he's still the guy that a lot of people were hoping he would be when the Wizards acquired him last year. So, one-on-one with Jordan Poole on the offseason and how he takes the second half of last year into a much better version of himself this one here on the Hoffman Show. With Jordan Poole on Wizards Media Day. JP, what's up, man? How are you?
What's going on, bro? How are you?
Doing well. Fun to talk to you guys this time of year. Everyone's excited. Everyone's getting ready for the season. For you, though, I'm curious, like, when you were in Golden State, you guys went pretty deep in the playoffs pretty consistently. Your season doesn't end until May or even June.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're done in mid-April. What'd you do? Like, how was it weird being done that early?
Yeah, it was a lot of time off. Worked out. I like to travel a little bit in my off season, but I do like to take my time off and rest a little bit, relax. So if you kind of mix those three things up over the course of like 5.5 months, that's really all I've been up to.
Did it hit you like how long the postseason is, not being in it, maybe even harder than it is when you're in it? When you realize like, oh my God, they are still playing.
Yeah. So my first year was COVID. So
right.
The off season was a little bit.
Yeah, that doesn't.
That was like
schedule's
messed
whack.
up a little bit, and then the second year was a shortened season, so we started a little bit later, and then I want to say we started either normally or a little bit earlier coming the next season, and then my third year was.
That was the year y'all won it, right?
Yeah, that was the year we won it, so we went all the way into like June.
Yeah, it's late.
Then
June.
the second or the year after that was like May.
Yeah.
Middle of May, because it's probably like 2.5, 3 weeks for the first 2 rounds. So This is the first off season I had that was like an extended period of time. When you get it off, you like obviously want to take advantage of it, but like I wouldn't plan on trying to have too many of those.
Right.
But it is what it is.
Speaking of the travel, what was your favorite trip that you took during the off season? Because it looked, based off Instagram alone, it looks like you had a couple good ones.
Yeah. Amsterdam was new. I've never been to Amsterdam. We were there for a couple of days. That was fire. I wasn't expecting it to be how nice it was. Food was really good. People were cool. I'm like an outdoorsy, like nature type of guy, so just walking around, kind of getting the feel and vibe of a new city. It was good weather, so let's lock in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, definitely on my list.
Yeah, you haven't been?
I have not, but
Okay.
you and I did share one vacation destination.
Where?
I was in Paris for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Were you there Olympic time, or did you
No,
go
I definitely
before?
wasn't going when there was all them people out there, bro. There's no way, bro.
They did a good job of making it not terribly busy. I will say. They did a good job. Kudos to the French.
I love Paris. Paris is probably a favorite.
What do you love about it? There's a lot to love.
Yeah,
so what is it that you love about
the
it?
swag.
Yeah.
Just kind of, they just be minding their business. Everybody put real clothes on, but everybody out there on foot, they walking around. It's not like, I'm not going to say it's like super warm and inviting, but it's not like cold shoulder either.
Yeah.
Like people just go about their day out there. So, just the vibes, bro. I don't know. Just the vibes, bro.
It's great.
Don't let me learn. I'm working on my French. So
how's that going? Because I tried to learn French and it was terrible.
It's going good. I got three players on the team who speak French, so I'll just ask them questions throughout the course of the day, course of the year and stuff. So
who's the most helpful?
Me and Bilal going on year 2. Year 2 is my teacher, but it helps with Keyshawn because Keyshawn is
he's bilingual.
Yeah, fire.
Yeah,
fire.
No,
and then we got mad French people around the facility. I'm not gonna lie, so there's hella wee going on in there. Bon travail, all type of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's that would have been helpful. I just was doing Duolingo, and I started
with that, but
I only got so far.
Yeah, then
Because I learned Spanish.
Le shot is the only thing that I learned, bro. That mean like cat, bro. That's it.
Tu manges un orange. Okay, cool. He can eat an orange,
right?
but like, how helpful is? Yeah, tu manges un orange.
No, I'm gonna have my French right by the start of the season.
All right, we can make that a mutual goal. If we do this again next year, we'll do part of the interview in
and see
French.
what we learn.
Yeah.
Okay, bet.
Well,
I like that.
I'll probably be like bonjour,
Solid. And that's it. I'll just take it from there.
All right, excellent. All right, that's a good plan. We'll call it a date next year, media day. Anthony, put that in the notebook.
Lock it in.
All right, so I also noticed that tattoo over there, the leg sleeve, grew throughout the season from the end of season pictures. I think it was just down on the calf.
Yeah.
What's the tattoo plan here? What?
Just one leg sleeve. I'm done.
That's it.
I'm done. Sleeve it from top to bottom. I added a bunch of stuff. I added a Allen Iverson piece. I added Death Note. It's an anime. I don't really watch anime, but I watched that one and it was fire. His name's Ryuk. I got him. I got Denzel Washington on the side. Michigan logo. Barack Obama up top. Clint Eastwood on the side. Bernie Mac in the back.
So these are all like heroes of
Ghost
yours
on the side. Yeah, more like portrait vibes. Things that I like growing up. I thought were pretty cool.
No, they look great. So
appreciate it, bro.
Excellent work on that.
Yeah,
I'm
my
sure
dog.
that hurt like hell.
Oh yeah, all tattoos are terrible. Anybody tells you that tattoos don't hurt, then
they're lying.
They're capping.
All right, let's talk a little ball. I know, like, the first half of last year for you compared to the second half are two completely different seasons.
Yeah.
My question for you, Jordan, is like when you watched yourself on tape at the first part of last year and you're trying to figure out how to get to where you eventually did get, what was that process like of figuring that out on both ends of the floor?
I controlled everything that I could control. Like, in terms of the positions that I was on the court, minutes that I was playing, the unit that we were out there with. It's only so much you can control with that. I mean, you can be vocal, you can go talk to the coach, you can go have like these conversations, but ultimately, when BK came, he's very familiar with my game. He coached against me my first 4 years in the league, and he knew my style and he knew what I do to be effective, and he wasted zero time on like telling the team that, as well as just like letting me know this is how he wants me to play, which is getting back to my game, being on ball, being aggressive, creating shots for myself, creating shots for others, playing in transition, playing free. And I think we just saw that as soon as he got the coaching change and he made that alter from being off ball to point guard, like everything went back to normal. So it's a learning process. Nothing is supposed to be easy, but it ties into just the fact that we were transitioning. We got a new coaching staff. We got a new front office. They're trying to figure things out. They're trying to figure out what direction they want to go to. It's their first year being in a head position. It's my first year being the lead player. So it was just a lot of transition and things that we needed to go through. I'm sure if we all could do it right away and like skip that entire phase, I'm pretty sure we would. But it's just a part of the learning process, and definitely it makes you tougher. You learn a lot. It was cool. It was a cool experience, man. You got to take everything that comes with the process. You can't just take the highs.
I'm glad you used that word toughness. I'm reading a book right now by a guy named Steve Magnus.
Okay.
It's on toughness, and literally the chapter that I was reading last night talks about how struggle can be a factor in building toughness if you take the right approach to it. So what's something you learned through the struggle that it wasn't very fun at the time, but that now you're like, oh, I'm a better person, better basketball player because of this struggle that I had?
It's a good question. I'm not gonna say the thing that comes to mind is like stick with it, stay with your routine. But I did that. All of that. I think that is where people deter a little bit, is when things get tough, or they're not going how they're supposed to. You want to alter something. You want to change something. But for me, I just stayed consistent through like the tough times. Anyway, you know what I mean? Like.
Well, I guess then if it works,
stick to the process. If it works, then why change it?
Right.
But I can see how at the beginning of the year how people would think that didn't work, and like that wasn't the thing. So just staying with the routine, sticking to what you know, challenging yourself, and then just getting back up, rise into every occasion, showing up every day, being first in, last one out. Right. Like that is more so of a lifestyle. That's more so of a personality trait than it is a motivation or non-motivational factor. So just sticking with it, because things are going to turn around. That's not going to always be tough, and you just take the bumps with the punches you throw.
All right, last question because they're giving me the wrap here.
The hurry up.
So what this year going into it, you're obviously way more comfortable around the team. You know Will, you know BK, you know the staff, or a lot of the staff. You know the city a lot better. You've been doing a lot of cool stuff, and would love to have you back on the show eventually to talk about some of that.
Yeah, definitely. I might have to start popping out and doing some more like podcasts with the team, like local stuff. I've been thinking about it. Me and my where is he at? Me and my PR guy J Squared.
Yeah, well, tell J Squared to come over here and pay me a visit. We'll have you on whenever. But for you on the court, like, what is success for you this year? That's how we're wrapping up all these chats here on
are we gonna go like tangible, like you can actually touch it, or just like metaphorical things as well? Trying
either.
to hit we playing, at least playing. Obviously, I would love to get back to the playoffs. We would love to get them to the playoffs, but I think playing is a very reachable, tangible goal for us. But just learning and building a culture and a sense of style, like to DC, like a way that we play, right? Like playing with speed, playing with, like we're going to get up a lot of threes. We getting out in transition, have fun. We're going to guard. Bringing like just like a joy back to the city. We're young, so we're going to have to use the season to learn the things that we need to learn in order to become a good team and be a team that ultimately wants to play in that postseason. But just building like an identity, I think that's something that'll be huge for us. And everything else will take care of itself, man. I'm extremely excited about the season. We're going in the right direction. We got some clarity. We got guys who are motivated. We got a young group of guys that are really going to help us this year. Coaching staff who's locked in, who's focused. It'll be a fun year.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
JP, we'll have you back on to talk about all the stuff you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. That's Jordan Poole, everybody. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. So Thomas Dimitroff was actually on. He was on B. Mitch and Finley. He was on Gray and Danny yesterday. That's what it was. He was on Gray and Danny yesterday, talking about, and of course Thomas Dimitroff, former NFL executive, including was the general manager in Atlanta for the Falcons when Dan Quinn was the head coach, and was asked about the Commanders' current status. Of course, they are 5-2. The NFC East looks very, very up for grabs, and the trade market is popping in the NFL. So would former NFL executive Thomas Dimitroff, if he was in Adam Peters' shoes, be looking to be aggressive? And if so, who would he be looking to be aggressive for?
Look, I keep trumpeting this, and I think the Raiders fans are going to be agitated with me, but I know Dan Quinn. I know Dan Quinn loves legit pass rushers. I'm talking game-breaking pass rushers. You know where I'm going with this. To ever see a guy like Max Crosby pushing that to continue to build because, you know, they have a little bit of age on that pass rushing side too. I think that would be an ideal fit. Now, I know everyone in Detroit wants him there, and I think there are people in Atlanta that want him here. But I think the mix, Max Crosby and Dan Quinn, you don't think your city would go nuts over that?
I would imagine that Dan Quinn would be very excited about Max Crosby. Max Crosby is very good. He plays very hard. And that is one where I do think that for the right pick, it would make a lot of sense. So I'm intrigued, but all of this has to be for the right price. Like, okay, the salary cap, they can afford anything. But are you talking like a 6th rounder for Max Crosby? Done. Do it yesterday. You're talking a 2nd rounder for Max Crosby? Not that interested. Like, you got to be more patient than that. Anthony, curious, what if we have time to say, I don't know, in this segment to play one more soundbite from Thomas Dimitroff, what was the most interesting thing that you think Thomas Dimitroff said to Grant and Danny yesterday that you would hit play on if, you know, you were the producer of an afternoon drive radio show who was fully aware of all the things that Thomas Dimitroff said yesterday to a different afternoon drive radio show?
I would probably be on the trade, front as well. I mean, the Max Crosby one was most interesting for sure, but I think a Denzel Ward to Washington is also interesting.
I think that is very interesting. Did Thomas Dimitroff talk about Denzel Ward to Washington? Well, let's hear Thomas Dimitroff. I mean, Anthony, I love your opinions, but you, sir, have never been an executive in the NFL. No. Thomas Dimitroff has. I think he's won Executive of the Year before. So what did Thomas Dimitroff have to say about Denzel Ward potentially coming to Washington in that fit?
I also think someone like Denzel Ward would be someone you'd consider. You want to continue to build that pass defense, maybe a guy like that's available. Keep working on that defense. I know there are people out there wanting maybe a receiver on the offensive side. I think some of the receivers kind of have already gone their own way. I don't know necessarily who that would be on the receiver side. I still would consider it. I think he should be a player given where that organization is right now.
This year, you want to continue to fight in the long term. But if you got a chance, make a move. And I think corner and defensive end, getting a stud at either one would change the dynamic of this defense in such a tremendous way that you frankly have to consider it. And I think defensive end specifically is probably more intriguing to me if you can get a solo pass rusher that can win one-on-ones. Like, again, that is a game changer in such a significant way that you have to make those considerations and what it does for your defense and what it does for everybody on there. But it's actually, Anthony, something that I'm curious to talk about the rest of the week as we get into some of the matchups and stuff. Jordan McGee's presence is really interesting to me this week. You talk about let's add an edge rusher. What if you just move Frankie Louvu there, not full-time, but more full-time? Because all of a sudden McGee and Wagner can play together? And, I don't know, bringing a rookie in the middle of the year, like, not easy, but if he's ready and that moves Louvu to edge more, well, that's how you add edge depth from within without having to make any trades, and you still have all your draft picks in the future.
Yeah, and then also I think it makes the transition for McGee a little easier playing alongside a guy like Bobby Wagner, who's probably going to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And then you also got, a nice defensive tackle duo in front of you as well. So, I think everybody's been advocating for, the Luvu transition to DN just because we need a little bit more pass rush. And when we've seen him there, he's been really productive. So,
and frankly, like him dropping as a zone player in a zone blitz situation, fine. Him playing coverage, like that's not exactly his jam. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting. Dan Pizzuta spends a lot of time studying all this stuff, and I'm very curious to talk to Dan today. We always are on a Thursday. Dan's going to join us next, our NFL analyst with the 33rd team who joins us weekly. What does he think this offense can do with Marcus Mariota at the helm? And also, how has Chicago been able to be productive with Caleb Williams at the helm the last couple of weeks, and how much of that has to do with some weak opponents that they've played? We'll talk to Dan Pizzuta next, and I have a surprise for Anthony at 5:15. He just is learning about this in real time. He hates surprises, so I'm very excited for this. And then at 5:30, the Wizards head coach, Brian Keefe, with us here as we're live at Capital One Arena. Wizards, Celtics on the Team 980 tonight. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. And again, we're live at Capital One Arena ahead of the Wizards season opener tonight and their head coach, Brian Keefe. You'll hear my conversation with him coming up at 5:30. GM Will Dawkins at 6:30. Right now, though, one of my favorite times of the week, it's time to bring in our pal Dan Pizzuta from the 33rd Team for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in, Not My Beat.
Of course, Dan, one of the writers for the 33rd Team, joining us here on the show. Pizzuta, what's up, dude? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing very, very well. Excited to be sitting in a basketball arena talking football. That is the silly nature of the job that I do, but here we are. And talking to you about Marcus Mariota and the things that, we all dreamed about doing. When you watched the game back last week and you saw Marcus lead this Commanders offense against a Panthers defense that is obviously very banged up and only so good to begin with, how much of what you saw you think is repeatable against the Bears and moving forward versus things that he kind of got away with if we're going to give Commanders fans a reality check on that game?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where it was a fairly impressive performance. I think the offense did a lot of good things to kind of open up some stuff for him. I think there's going to be, you're not going to expect Marcus Mariota to, if he has to, continue to play over, multiple weeks, which, hopefully for Washington he doesn't, you're not going to expect him to continue to be one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. So I think there just is some of that just kind of naturally you would expect would not go quite as well, especially if he does have to play this week going from a Carolina defense that, like you said, has not been very good at stopping anyone to a Chicago defense that has been very good at stopping just about everyone they've played so far. But I think they did a lot of good things. There was, a lot of the, kind of open spread stuff that we saw earlier in the season. I think there were a lot of good open down the field throws that he just kind of made a pretty good throw. A couple of times he was in empty about 31% of his dropbacks, which I think was just a way to get everything spread out, give him very easy kind of checks at the line to see what the defense is going to be doing. So there were a lot of just kind of different ways. There was a lot of good from him specifically, but there was still a lot of good from the offense that just kind of, I think, made some things easier for him.
So when you've studied Marcus in the past, you think back to what he did in Atlanta. That was a very up and down season. What are the things that you would define as Marcus Mariota does well? And then what are the areas that, if you're Cliff Kingsbury, you're trying to game plan around so that you can avoid him having to do these things, X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, the Marcus Mariota experience in Atlanta was strange. He was just missing open throws just all the time, and that was just kind of really frustrating. And I don't really know if there was a concrete reason for why it was. Just some of that accuracy and trust, I guess, in that offense just wasn't there. I think we kind of already saw having him, in empty a little bit, letting him, run just a little more. He had a slightly, smaller scramble rate, but he was able to. I think he had a couple of designed runs that just kind of helped him, I think, get in the groove. So I think just having some better skill positions, having that run game to lean on a little bit. And again, I think that those empty formations, I think, did really help him, where he didn't have to do a lot of work pre-snap because everything was so spread out. He was kind of able to figure out where that open receiver was going to be. So I think that just kind of those are things, getting him in the rhythm of an offense, which I think they did very good at, once he came in. I think that is definitely going to help him, continue to play pretty well going forward.
Dan Pizzuta, 33rd Team, with us for his weekly visit here on the Team 980. The Chicago defense has not given up 21 points in 12 straight games. That is very impressive no matter who the opponents are. But, Dan, when you watch them, is that truly who they are in terms of caliber of defense, or does that have to do with the fact that they've played the Panthers, the Jags, the Titans, and some of the NFL's worst offenses, or at least in the Jags' case, most inconsistent offenses in 2024 on the back half of that streak?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. I would still say they're one of the better defenses in the league, and one of the things that I think they're really good at is I think they're just technically sound, kind of just everywhere, and that is something that I think even if, they're not going to play up to be a top 5 defensive line, there's not going to be a lot of, blown plays that they're, playing not well. I think they have a great linebacker play at that second level with all of those guys. They have, 3 guys they can really rely on to play well. The cornerbacks are playing really well. Jalen Johnson has repeatedly been one of the best corners in the league. After the season he had last year, he is repeating that this year, and that's very tough to do just kind of individually for a cornerback, because we kind of see play there can be up and down. I think they're just always put in a very good position, and then they have guys who are able to take advantage of any mistake that the offense makes. So they're pretty high in turnover rate, which, is not something that is normally sustainable. But I think the way they play, the way they're kind of taught to attack the ball, and just their style of play does allow that to be a little more sustainable than it would be for other defenses that are kind of relying on turnovers. But just kind of the way they are just technically sound. There's not a lot of ways you can really just, make them make mistakes, which I think is a good thing for a defense, and kind of the way you're able to sustain a high level of play regardless of the opponent.
So if you want some wide variance, you flip the other side of the ball, and you have a Bears offense that's done a little bit of everything this year, and you have a Commanders defense that's done a little bit of everything this year. How have you seen the Chicago offense evolve to better support Caleb Williams as it's gone? And obviously, again, the last couple weeks, in many ways, we're having the same conversations about the Commanders as they are in Chicago. What exactly do we make of this, considering the opponents? They were playing Jacksonville, they were playing Carolina, but what do we make of the turn before the bye for the better for Caleb Williams?
Yeah, he's a guy, kind of in the same sense as Jayden Daniels. I think Jayden Daniels started at a higher level in week 1 and has gotten better and shown something different every week. It's the same thing for Caleb Williams. Just the first 2 weeks were a little rocky. So the improvement has been gradual, and it's not at the same plane, I think, that Jayden Daniels was. But Caleb Williams has gotten better every week at something, and it's really been impressive to see. I think they've really kind of figured out what that offense needs to be. I think, when you look at Washington offense, they had a plan and, slowly rolled some more things out. I think for Chicago, they just didn't really know exactly what they wanted to do with the quarterback, how they were going to protect him with the offensive line, how to use all their skill position players. I think they've definitely gotten into a groove a little bit over the past few weeks, and he has more control of that offense. He's doing really well in the quick game. That's probably been one of his best areas right now. So when they're, getting the ball out quick, getting the short passes, he has been super accurate, super decisive, and that's how they've kind of moved the ball really well. He has a couple of the wild, Caleb Williams throws about, once or twice a game. Those are hitting at a higher rate than they were at the beginning of the season. But then you kind of look at some of his, deep passing still isn't quite there at the consistency you would have hoped. But I think that's actually going to be a positive for Chicago, going forward, because I think eventually those are going to hit. But right now, if you are kind of going to force Williams into a mistake, it's kind of still getting that pressure a little bit, forcing him to throw deep. That's still just the part of the game that hasn't completely come together yet for him. But everything else is just real. It's getting better every week. It's really, really fun to watch.
So that was going to be my question as we wrap up here, Dan, and we tossed this around on our show this morning, the podcast that I do with Logan Paulson, Take Command. Is Logan initially was like, I would probably be pretty, or I would potentially be really conservative in my coverage structures and try to make them run the football and all that, but because Caleb has struggled so much with the deep ball, do you almost want to tempt them into that? Now, that is a high wire act if you're Washington, considering the weapons they have on the outside. But would you how much risk would you be encouraging Chicago to take if you're Washington, if you're Joe Whitt specifically, and how you call this game?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way to do it, because I still think some of the the ways we've kind of seen them struggle with some of the interior pressure when you can push him outside the pocket, kind of force him to make some of those deeper throws on the run. So I would be encouraging that. And, you might lose in a way where those throws are going to beat you. But I think I'm at a point right now with seeing where he is developmentally, I would like to see him beat me like that. I would like to force him to make those throws because we just haven't seen it at a consistent level. If I'm going to let him kind of sit back, just kind of have not a lot of pressure in his face, and he's able to just kind of make the right decision and fire off in quick game, I've seen him win that way already. So I know he can do that. If I can force him to kind of play hero ball a little bit, and that's kind of, when he was coming into the league, that was one of the concerns. How often is he going to kind of default to trying to do a little too much? So that would be my way of trying to force him to play a little uncomfortably and try to force some things down the field. And I think you can get that high variance a little bit, but that's probably where more of the negatives are going to come from than they have been when he's really been in control the past few weeks.
Dan Pizzuta, 33rd team. You can read more of his work there. Actually, you can read all of his work there. Just go to the 33rd team, from the quarterback rankings to the first and 10 column every week. Dan's always producing great stuff, and he joins us Thursdays here on the Hoffman Show. Dan, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good.
That is Dan Pizzuta, everybody. When we get back, I have an NBA-themed surprise for Anthony Haney before you hear from Wizards head coach Brian Keefe at 5:30 here on your home for Wizards basketball on opening night. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock tip against the Celtics. It's the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980, and we're live at Capital One Arena, where the Wizards will take on the Celtics tonight. It is the season opener for Washington. Of course, Boston's 1-0. And it's a new NBA season. And Anthony, as you sit there and chew on your Snickers, I thought perhaps we should partake in a NBA season opening traditions. When you think of the start of the NBA season, what do you think of?
I think about rings. It's usually ring night.
I don't have a ring or any championship banners for you. Sorry, it's not what I'm going for.
You asked me what I think of.
Yeah, but I'm getting to the thing that we're going to do. Thank you for thinking of that. The Celtics very much appreciate you, but that's not the thing I'm looking for.
Maybe basketball.
Yes, Anthony. At the beginning, we're not going to play basketball. That's not what we're going for here.
Does it have to do with a wardrobe?
Does not have to do with wardrobe.
Am I
what if I told
all
you?
over the place?
What if I told you it was a TV something?
It's something. Oh, okay. Something like a Shacked and a Fool, or
yeah. Now you're on the right track. Now,
okay.
Yeah. There's a little game that they play with Charles Barkley at the beginning of every season, and I thought imitation's the highest form of flattery. So, Anthony, when CBS Sports put out an Instagram post of NBA players you may not remember switching teams, I thought it's a perfect opportunity for us to play who he played for.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, all right. I feel like the first one's pretty easy. So I got thanks to the folks at CBS Sports for making this easy, giving me all the answers and making me not have to search for any of this. Well, this is going to be high-quality funsies on the radio. Anthony is going to play a game of who he played for. Shout out to the legendary Inside the NBA, entering its final season this year, at least on TNT, before the NBA moves to NBC next year. But, Anthony, the first one in our 2024 edition of Who He Played For is Chris Paul.
That's easy. The Spurs.
Okay, hey, we're just warming up.
Okay.
Honestly,
hey, look, let's get it.
That's one that I knew. The rest of these, I don't know how well I would have done, but we got 9 more on the swipe. So take your time, but also don't. We got Brian Keefe coming up at 5:30.
Yeah.
All right, next up, former Wizard, former Knick, former Bull, Taj Gibson.
If you
had asked me, that's what I would have said. If you had asked me Taj Gibson, who he played for, my answer would have been nobody. He's on a beach somewhere. With all due respect.
Will he even play? Like, will he be in the rotation?
I don't know. I'll give you this much. For this team, I don't know their rotation.
All right, the Trailblazers.
No, that is not correct. That's the Charlotte Hornets. There's Taj Gibson in Charlotte.
I just watched him yesterday. I did not see him on the bench.
Well,
I know he wasn't in the game.
Per the CBS Sports post an hour ago, he is on.
Wow.
He's on the Charlotte Hornets.
Okay. So what am I? 1 for 2?
You're 1 for 2. Okay. All right. Next up.
What is a passing grade?
Honestly, if you get like 3, I'd be impressed.
All right, let's go.
Let's see. I'm still, as I scroll through here. No, you're gonna need to get. If you get 5, that's a passing grade, considering the list here. Because there's a couple that definitely you should know. There's one, I'm gonna leave it there. Dougie McBuckets, Doug McDermott. Where is Doug McDermott playing his basketball in 2024 in the National Basketball Association, Anthony?
I'm gonna guess the Magic.
That is incorrect. He's on the Sacramento Kings, which somehow feels right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because didn't Kevin Huerter leave, or is Kevin Huerter still at the Kings?
I think he's still there, the Red Rocket.
How many white guys do they need to shoot the basketball?
It's a great question.
Apparently,
never have too many.
That's what Anthony said. Okay, hey mate, let's get the Australians in here. Let's go Patty Mills. Where's Patty Mills playing his NBA basketball in 2024?
Patty, ooh, I know this one.
Do you?
Yes. The Nets.
That is not correct, Anthony.
The Hawks.
No, it is also not correct, Anthony.
Oh, my gosh.
And Patty Mills, he's fallen in his old mate, Australian mate's footsteps. The land of Dante Exum's drafting. He's a Utah Jazz member.
He's with the Jazz? Oh, my gosh.
That's what it says.
This is insane.
All right.
I'm 1 for 3.
You're honestly, you're honoring Chuck in the best way that you can. Buddy Hield. Where is Buddy Hield in 2024?
Buddy is with the Warriors.
That is correct. All right. Buddy Hield with the Warriors in 2024. Finally, they got some more shooting, which leads us to the guy that departed. This is getting a little easier. Where is Klay Thompson playing his basketball in 2024?
Klay Thompson is with the Dallas Mavericks.
Okay, bonus point. I'm not actually going to give you a bonus here because we're going straight score. But for for your own feelings, what number is Klay Thompson wearing in 2024?
He is wearing 11.
No,
he's not, because Kyrie is 11.
There you go.
He's wearing 3.
He's wearing 31, and it looks really weird.
Ew, that's disgusting.
Yeah, 31's a gross basketball number.
Yeah, unless you're Sean Marion, he made it look cool.
Yeah, the Matrix did. Which, by the way, ironically, how is he wearing 31 in Dallas? I don't know. All right, Russell Westbrook was an off-season trade. Where did he wind up?
Russell Westbrook is with the Nuggets.
That is correct, Anthony.
That's good. That's 4. I got 4 right.
Yeah, that's why I said, you should get 5 here.
Okay.
That's one of the ones that you should definitely get. And then if you can get some of the wild cards at the end, then you're doing really great. But there's one more that you 100% should get.
Okay.
And that guy is Malcolm Brogdon.
Oh, he's with the Wizards.
That is correct. Malcolm Brogdon's here. And he's on the show right now. I'm just kidding. He's not. That would have been really funny. That would have been really funny if Malcolm was just popping in saying what's up. He's hurt, though, to start the season. So that kind of sucks. Or at least he was in the preseason. I'm pretty sure he's out for a while. So Malcolm Brogdon, who doesn't, I got to say, in this photo, Anthony, he does not look thrilled to be here.
Now he's mean mugging.
Yeah, that's all right. And Malcolm Brogdon, Wizard. Okay, next up. Shooter Gary Trent Jr. Where is Gary Trent Jr. in 2024? Guard.
He was on the TV screen yesterday.
He was on the TV screen yesterday on one of the national games. The question is, which team was he playing for?
I think he was. Oh, I'm going to be so mad if I get this wrong. I think he was with the Bucks.
That is correct. Anthony Henry has won the game, everybody. Nice job. Nice job. All right, last one. I wish we had the song ready, but if I had told you the song, you would have known the player. Mo Bamba.
Mo Bamba. What team is this guy on? That's a great question, Craig. He is on.
He was also, well, no, I'm going to give you a hint yet.
Well, you already did. He was on.
He was on TV last night.
Oh.
I mean, at least his team was.
The Sixers.
That is incorrect. He is
the Atlanta Hawks.
His new home is the Intuit Dome.
Oh, the Clippers?
That is correct. He is on the Clippers.
Man, that was hard, dude.
It is crazy because there's so much time between the off-season transaction window and when the season starts. Yeah. And unlike training camp in the NFL, which we cover incessantly, the NBA season, obviously, there's been preseason happening. If you're an NBA junkie and you're super locked in, you could have been watching basketball the last month. But for most of us who are even NBA fans, we just kind of wake up today and we're like, oh, there's the season. Yeah. And then dudes are out there running around. You're like, oh, yeah, that guy went there. It's just there's a lot of movement, which is why, it's one thing. This has always been my thing. The Chuckster, they're playing who we play for, is hilarious because he's Charles Barkley. There is a small part of me that's like, dude, your job is to cover the NBA.
Yeah, you should know.
And you're just like, hey, if I had to cover one thing, you know how many rosters are in my head? You know how many Anthony, you know how many things I've done today?
A lot.
Let's see. I did Take Command this morning, and then I did my personal training / fitness podcast, so that's not even sports. I did that, and then I did our NWSL show, so the Women's Soccer League, and then we did, I taped something with the Chicago Bears podcast, so Commanders brain back on. Now I'm doing this show, which is part Commanders, part Wizards, part NFL, part NBA, etc. I've been doing WNBA stuff the past couple of days. Yeah, I would love to cover one league. Yeah. It's probably better if Chuck doesn't study and just kind of lets it happen. But what if Charles just studied his face off? What if Charles showed up tonight on the TNT set and they played who he played for, and he just absolutely crushed it?
I don't think the show would be as good.
I mean, that would be one way to do it. Be like, this is the last time I'm going to have to play this stupid game, and I'm going to go out with a bang. He probably won't.
True.
Charles would rather play golf. So there's that. All right, that was in homage to Inside the NBA, who he played for. Anthony won the game. Congratulations, Anthony. You win pride.
I needed that.
Yeah, you did.
I'm not gonna lie. After missing 3 straight, I started to get down on myself.
But you're a smart man, and
yes,
you proved it to everybody. You know who else is a smart man? Brian Keefe. He's the head coach of the Washington Wizards, and you'll hear our chat next on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're broadcasting live from Capital One Arena, where tonight the Wizards will open their season. And, oh, my God, we are less than 100 minutes from tip-off because the clock is running. 91, 53, 52, 51. Okay, well, you know what's better than me counting down a clock that I can see through the tunnel here at Cap One? How about a one-on-one conversation with the head coach? Sat down with Brian Keefe on Media Day, chatted about all kinds of different things. They just had a coaches clinic that was really cool that you'll hear him talk about, some things that he's picked up, and then obviously what's it like to be permanently in that big-time chair for the first time. Me, BK, one-on-one, now here on the Hoffman Show. Continuing our coverage of Wizards Media Day here on the Team 980 live from Capital One Arena with the head coach, Brian Keefe. Fresh off your first ever coaches clinic as a head coach of the Wizards. You did this weekend. Very cool event, I heard, with different coaches from around the area, college coaches, and then obviously you guys welcome in a bunch of coaches from all levels to teach. So I'm curious, for you, being around all that coaching knowledge, was there anything that you took away, that you learned amidst all the teaching that you did this weekend?
Yeah, tremendous. First of all, that was our first annual coaches clinic. We came up with this idea this summer about how do we give back to the community. This is such a rich place for basketball, rich history of great players, but also great coaches. So we really wanted to engage the community, the DMV, in terms of coaching. So Coach Cooley, Coach Simpkins, Coach Blakeney from Howard all came over, and we all had different segments. So, yeah, you're always learning. That's part of this. Like, I'm a curious person, so I learned from those. But then there were some great questions from all the people in the stands. I think we had about 150 people there, and they had some good stuff that stimulated thought for me. And that was kind of the purpose of all that, is to share the game. This game has given us all a lot, and how can we give back and share and learn and grow from each other?
So what was something that you learned? Or that you've been thinking about, at least that part?
There was some good offensive rebounding ideas, some different concepts on defense, some drills that people were talking about. So, yeah, there was always a little nugget, and that was the purpose. Like, can there be something that fits for all of us?
Yeah.
And there was for me. I won't give them away because they were pretty good stuff.
There's always, when you learn something new, there's always a chance of recency bias, especially if you have good institutional knowledge of something, you've been doing something that's working. You get something that's fresh, and you're like, oh, but what if I did that? And then you have to fight the urge to just change for the sake of change. How do you try to fight that recency bias as you have all these new ideas ruminating on the verge of a new endeavor for you as a head coach, going through your first training camp as a head coach? Obviously, you had the interim experience last year.
I think you just always got to be authentic to who you are. I think that's good to stimulate thought, growth. What do you think is going to work for you? But you always got to go back to, okay, does this fit what we need, what we're doing? But I do like that you got to stretch yourself. We're asking our players to stretch and grow. We got to grow as coaches. So that's something we're very focused on.
So one of the difficult balances that any coach has in any walk of life, but that you specifically are going to have this year, is you have a very high standard. You have a way that you guys want to do things as a head coach, as an organization, but players also need some level of autonomy to feel that they have control over things. That's how you maximize human performance, obviously. How do you, especially in a rebuilding environment where you want to get things done a very set way, balance that as a head coach?
First of all, I think there's a shared standard, like you talked about, how we're going to try to operate on a day-to-day basis. But we also realize that we have a lot of guys who are growing in their games and growing in their careers. And it's not just our young emerging players, it's our older guys. So we want to put our guys in position to try things that are going to stretch them. I think that's how you build something. And we want to build something, I think I've talked about this a lot, that's sustainable, that's going to be pressure tested. So we're going to find out and put these guys in different things, see what they can handle, play them in different positions, see certain guys handle the ball in different ways they never did in the past. I think those are the things we're looking for this year.
You talk about stretching yourself. What's something that you are nervous about? What's something that you're very confident in? Maybe the most nervous about, the most confident in?
I'm not like an overly nervous person. The thing I look at is challenging. And challenge is a word that I like to use because I think that builds an excitement. So, we're about to embark on a journey as our group. We're going to set some standards of how we're going to operate. To me, that's a challenge, how we're going to build this on a day-to-day basis. So to me, when you say challenge, that builds excitement. So I'm not nervous. It's not a word for me. It's more of like, hey, the excitement of the journey, the challenge to build something, that gets my juices flowing in the morning for sure.
All right, well, I'm going to skip ahead on my question list here because that does speak to one of the things I think is most fascinating in your chair. You have this very long vision as an organization where there is a de-emphasis from the front office's perspective on wins and losses. But you're living it every day. You ride the emotions of the game. You're in it. It's your job, quite literally, to try to win every game, every night, find the best ways to do that. So how do you're a part of also this vision. They've chosen you to be the guy to guide this on the floor. So how do you kind of, insulate's the right word, prepare, whatever that word is emotionally, to give it your all every single night in an effort to win while also doing that within context of the larger vision?
I think the one thing is that we're all totally aligned on how to go about this. We're totally into the process of how to win and how to build something sustainable. We don't want to cut any corners. So my responsibility on our end is not to cut corners, to build it step by step, brick by brick. I love that because that's going to build something sustainable. Yeah, you might sneak in a win in here if you try to maybe do it the wrong way, but that's not going to be something that's going to be long-lasting. That's something that's going to build something that builds something when we really push the gas that we're ready to go. So the alignment of ownership down to Michael, Will, and myself, we know the process. My responsibility is to ensure the standards on a day-to-day basis, and I love that.
But is that ever hard? Like, let's say in the moment, right? You have minutes. Kind of you've got a plan for how you want to play guys, and if I put my vet or I put my star back in a few minutes early, like that's going to help our chances to win tonight. Is that ever hard in the emotion of a game when it's close and you're like, you're making those in-game decisions that every coach has to make?
Look, we're competitors. We want to win, so we're going to put ourselves in the best positions to be successful. So that's part of building it the right way. So to me, it's this. We're competitors. How are we going to do that? How are we going to build that over the long terms is something that we can build sustainable. That's the challenge. I'm excited about the challenge. I think it's exciting.
One thing that has changed over your 16, I believe, years in the NBA?
Maybe a little bit longer. I don't know the exact number, but a little longer, I think.
If that's wrong, Basketball Reference, please update your Brian Keefe page because I just need to count better, which is look, Brian, I doubt you listen to a lot of sports talk radio, but if you listen to our show and you want to hear some bad math, we're the right place for you.
Oh, all right.
But one thing that's changed over the last 2 decades of NBA basketball is the structure of the schedule, and part of that is kind of this every other day rhythm.
Yep.
How has coaching, especially in season, changed and I would assume become harder as practice time has become rarer and rarer during the season?
Well, the one thing that's great is that we all play under the same rules, right? So everybody's got the same type of schedule. So to me, I never look at it as like a woe is me. It's like, okay, how do we best use the schedule to coach and teach? I think there's opportunities to do that in so many different ways than just normal everyday practice. So we're going to maximize every opportunity to grow. That could be collectively, that could be film, that could be individual work, that could be individual film. We look at those all as opportunities to grow. So the schedule is the schedule. We all have the same one. Could be different a little bit just because of travel, where you're located, but we all play 82 games. That's the reality of it. So it's how you best maximize your time.
I know you spent some time this offseason trying to think about how you wanted to play schematically, and I don't expect you to then sit here and tell me all of the answers that you came up with. But what was your process in determining, all right, we want to do X, Y, Z. These are the players that at times we want the ball to run through, or however, whatever answers you wound up on. What was the process to get there?
I think you're always looking to see what translates to winning, what wins at the highest level. That's playoff basketball. That's deep playoffs basketball. So there's always a study of that. And then it's once your roster kind of becomes set, okay, how do we best utilize this group? Who needs to grow? What are they going to look like in a few years if they develop these certain skills? I think there's a little bit of a experimentation, innovation with that too as you go forward. We want to see what works, how these guys can grow, what different positions they're in. But the philosophical things like the bedrock stuff is probably going to still be the same. We want to defend at a high level. We want to play fast and share the ball. But how do we do that? How we go about that? I think that you're always evaluating on a day-to-day basis once you have your roster and then once you get into the season.
With that, every experiment needs time to play out. You can't be like, all right, let's try this. Okay, we got one result. Now let's try something else. Let's try something else. Because otherwise you never get to see how things stick. Obviously, chemistry never grows. How do you think about that balance of how long you give, whether it's a scheme, a rotation, a pairing, or a trio of players getting minutes together, all those things?
Again, I think you've already answered the question. You can't just do those things as one-offs. You got to invest some time.
I know the bottom end. I'm asking you, like, how long does it ultimately have? No one-offs is easy.
No, sure.
Hey, there's like, hey, you should move the ball. Okay, that's cool, but like, what's the structure in which that happens? So what's kind of does it need 5 games, 10 games? Is there a non-numerical measure of it?
I think there's a little bit of a feel to that. It's obviously not 1. It's probably not 2, but there's obviously a feel. It's probably, you got to invest in things and see if they are going to stick while still sticking to your core principles. I think those are the ones that eventually rue the day, and those are the ones that push you along. But can there be something that you find out about your team? I think there's always time for that, and we're going to find that during the year.
It's Brian Keefe, everybody, head coach of the Wizards. Training camp getting going tomorrow. Season, of course, in just a few weeks, and every game here on the Team 980, Brian. So we'll be listening and probably watch some on television too. And if not, be here at Capital One Arena. What a place!
All right, Thanks, man.
All right, we are here at Capital One Arena. Did that interview with Brian on Media Day, and we got one more to play for you as we empty the clip of Wizards interviews, stuff that we've been holding out on you. I'm not going to even lie. We've been holding out on you. It's because we've been doing a lot of Commander stuff, but today, the day the Wizards season's open, no, we got plenty of Zardo's coverage for you, and no better conversation, not one that I look forward to more every single year. Well, I look forward to the Corey Kingsbury interview for a different reason, but in terms of substance and really trying to understand what they're doing here as they rebuild, Will Dawkins is the guy. And I talked to Will for a solid 15 minutes, and you will hear that coming up at 6:30, so at this point just under an hour from now. The last thing you'll hear before we make way for Dave Johnson and Glenn Consor and the Wizards radio team here on the Team 980. When we get back live, normally 5:30 on a Thursday is never read the comments, but we're just going to do an abbreviated version. And so put on our hazmat suits and dive into the deepest, darkest part of the internet next on the Hoffman Show. Continuing our coverage. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Doors are opening up here at Capital One Arena as I see folks wearing all kinds of jerseys and all kinds of everything coming in, all kinds of NBA garb as we are here on Wizards opening night. Of course, we are just under an hour from pregame. Oh my God, under an hour, 73 minutes if you're counting as I check the clock out there from tip-off here on the Team 980. But right now, it is time for a quick edition on a Thursday before we get to the Pick 6 at 6 and then Will Dawkins at 6:30 for Never Read the Comments.
We tried to warn them. They didn't listen.
Yeah!
Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
All right, we always start with a comment that just kind of makes us chuckle, and this one made me chuckle, Anthony. This was on our talk about Jayden Daniels' durability yesterday, and James Robinson, 8623, goes, "Who's this dude talking?" He was talking about me, by the way. Who's this dude talking? Apparently he doesn't know football because and by the way, no N-O. There's a lot of typos in here. I'm not going to call them out. I'm not going to play petty grammar games. I'm just going to let everyone know that if I stumble over reading this, it's not because I can't read. It's because this is barely in English. Who's this dude talking? Apparently he doesn't know football because the Bears D will be the best D that Washington has faced this far, but Mariota is trash, always has been trash. His passes was sloppy the whole game. Yeah, they beat the Panthers with Mariota, but in his NFL career, he's trash. Even if JD playing, it's not going to be a catwalk. First of all, James, the term you're looking for is cakewalk. Second, there's a lot of other terms in here that you're not using the correct ones, but again, I'm not trying to be petty. The reason this made me chuckle, Anthony, is because I just can't imagine going on someone's YouTube page and leaving a comment and being like, "Who's this dude talking?" So I responded with the only logical thing that you should respond with here, Anthony, which is a 3-word phrase. Do you know what that 3-word phrase is?
Nope.
Google me, bro.
Nah, you really should.
I mean, that's not like a, hey, I don't have like a Wikipedia page or anything. It's not like I'm famous, but just like, if you're wondering who I am, then Google's free and it's one tab over. Mm-hmm. That's my new favorite response to people on the internet. Google is free. Google is free, and it's one tab over. I just, we used to have shame as a society, and I think that was a good thing. On to the actual substance of it all, and the idea of Jayden Daniels and his durability. And kind of what we're going to see this weekend. Guitar Guy 07 says the Bears' wins are against the Rams, Jags, Panthers, and Titans. I think we have less of an idea of how good the Bears actually are than the Commanders. I also think the Bears' defensive stats are inflated because of the offenses they face. They're either entirely beatable with they are entirely beatable with Jayden or Marcus at QB. Regardless, I hope Jayden is healthy and we get to see a great game with these two awesome young QBs. I am very definitely interested in seeing what the Bears can do this weekend because, obviously it gets to the point in the week where I finally get to sit down and watch some tape, and Jayden or Marcus could have a day against this Bears defense, but this Bears defense isn't bad. There's just a lot of air. There's a lot of space, and the other thing that I think is actually more exciting for me about what Washington could do, and again, it could go sideways. They could score 14 points in this game. They could turn the ball over 3 times. This is by no means a prediction. This is just one of the possible outcomes. They give up a ton of big runs, bro. One of the things I do when I watch tape, I try to see the best, the worst, and the average. So I always start off with just what's the last game? Let me watch the first quarter. Let me see how it goes. Let me watch if I have the time. Let me go through a couple games worth of first and second down and watch that. Okay, now let me watch you a little bit on third down. You get some of the tendencies and you pick some of that stuff up. But the other thing that I always try to do is watch the turnovers and the sacks, and then I watch the touchdowns. Because I want to know how teams are scoring on you. When teams break through, what is happening? Is it easy, hey, okay, we're at the 1-yard line? And there's of course, especially at this point of the season, there's a lot of that for every single team. But, 3 or 4 31, 38, 43-yard touchdown runs. They gave up big explosive runs a lot. And for a team that has been able to get explosive runs in every single game, if I'm Anthony Lynn this week and I'm Cliff Kingsbury this week, I'm like rubbing my hands together excited over some opportunities that may exist against this Bears defense.
Do you think it'll be different if Mariota is the starting quarterback on Sunday? Do you think they'll change their approach in terms of, wanting to stop the run and force Mariota to, beat them from the pocket? Do you think we'll see that?
I don't like the Bears are going to play how they're going to play.
Yeah.
If that answers the question.
Okay.
They don't do one of the things that's really interesting is they don't pressure a lot. All four of their defensive linemen are top 10 or 15 in the league in pass rush win rate at their position. So they got a bunch of dudes that are winning and they don't really heat guys up a lot. What's his name? Kyler Gordon, their nickel, he'll blitz a little bit, but he might be out. And so I think that when you look at this offense, with this defense, another thing that's exciting is it's kind of vanilla. Now, that's also terrifying because, Dan's old defenses in Seattle were vanilla, but they just killed you every single week because they had the perfect pieces. And Jalen, okay, cool, we're playing cover one. Jalen Johnson's man-to-man against your best receiver. That guy's not open. He's one of the best in the league. He's an interception machine. So there's a lot of risk involved in some of that, but can you then get maybe some of the quick game and stuff going with Zach Ertz over the middle? Can you get OZ and Diami on some screens? I think there's just opportunities against this team, but you have to execute at a high level, and that's kind of where I worry about Marcus is just not as sharp as Jayden. He's just not as accurate as Jayden. And so that's my big concern with the drop-off is the opportunities are going to exist. The run game is still going to be there. There's a lot of the similar offense that you'll see in terms of play call, but it's just not going to be on the passing side executed as well because Marcus Mariota is not as good as Jayden Daniels, and that's how backups work. But no, will the offense change? No.
Yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah. We're live at Capital One Arena. Very short, quick edition. I've never read the comments today, so we can get to our pick six at 6. You want to get your full fix of Joe Whitt Jr. and Cliff Kingsbury coming up. Also, I will say, Anthony, there's got to be sushi somewhere. I smell the rice. I smell the fish. I don't know.
Do you smell the fish or are you just hungry?
I mean, I had some sushi for lunch, and it wasn't a ton left over from last night. I'm definitely hungry, but I don't know. What are we... I gotta figure out what that smell is. I'm hungry and I want whatever they're cooking here.
Say, yeah.
I'm gonna go figure that out. We're gonna pay some bills and we're gonna come back and we're gonna do our pick six at 6. Then coming up at 6:30, Will Dawkins here on the Team 980. Dolphins Show. We're live on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And we have for you the top Commanders headlines of the day in just a moment. Then we're live from Capital One Arena, where at 6:30 you'll hear from Wizards General Manager Will Dawkins before we send things upstairs to Dave Johnson and Glenn Consor for the Wizards season opener against the Celtics. Let's get to it, though. It's time for our Pick 6 at 6.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
I can't do the numbers. I don't have enough.
It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level and build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
Of course, one of the huge underlying storylines in this game is Caleb Williams, not just his relationship to the Commanders' defense this weekend, a.k.a. what do you do with him, but his relationship with Cliff Kingsbury. I've been on a couple of Chicago shows this week, and I've been asked about this every single time, and today Cliff was asked about what he's seen from the Bears' number 1 overall pick, who, of course, he coached at University of Southern California last year.
Yeah, tremendous person, competitor, freaky talent. Watching the stuff he do in practice and in the games, his ability, his feel, really, really special. I mean, he's going to be one of the top guys in the league for a lot of years. And so that was cool to get to spend time with him last year.
And obviously, Cliff, part of the reason he was there is to help Caleb, not just in what they were trying to accomplish at SC, but in getting ready for the NFL. So what did they do last year to try to help Caleb be ready for this moment, maybe not anticipating that Cliff would be back on the opposite sideline?
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of a resource there as much as I could be. That was the good thing. Lincoln allowed me to be the good cop, and any knowledge, anything I could share, particularly with him, and we all knew where he was going, and it was kind of a foregone conclusion that he'd be the first pick for a long time. So really just a resource in any way that I could be, helping him, trying to mentally prepare for the things that were ahead.
Obviously, you'll hear more from Joe Whitt later in our Pick 6 and how the Commanders' defense is preparing. But Cliff's main job is not to focus on Caleb Williams. It's to focus on his own quarterback room, where he's got, to manage some stuff this week. Jayden Daniels not practicing again on Thursday. So as we hit number 2 here in our Pick 6, how does the Commanders' offense change if it's Marcus Mariota and not Jayden Daniels?
Yeah, I mean, DQ set up a great plan. I won't get into the details of it, but just to make sure that, both guys are getting enough reps and getting a comfort level with the plays we're going to have in that they can go operate. Marcus hadn't taken a snap with our offense in 68 days prior to the game, and came in and performed really at a high level and made a bunch of plays. So that was good to see, and it takes a unique person and player to do that. And so we feel really good about trying to get him some reps this week, and we're just going to take it from there.
And I'm curious that plan, obviously, they are not going to give us the details. Maybe Dan will tomorrow. I mean, at that point, I don't want to say who cares, but there's less gamesmanship to be played depending on what the ruling is for Jayden. If they rule him out tomorrow, then it's we can tell you. But he's obviously not practicing. He's listed as DNP. That is an NFL designation. If you take a snap in practice, you're a limited participant, and that's not what's happening. He is a DNP. But this is a team that uses a lot of walkthroughs. They have the VR stuff. So they're going to find ways to make sure Jayden is ready just in case he is physically ready to go on Sunday. If he's not, schematically, if anything, not that Cliff Kingsbury is going to give us a lot here, but what changes if Marcus is the starting quarterback? And how surprised was he to see how well Marcus ran the offense on Sunday?
Just like I said, he's going to have some concepts that he maybe likes better or that Jayden wouldn't like, and at the end of the week, we always talk through that with whoever's going to be playing. And the backup, we get his sheet as well and be like, hey, which plays you really like? And they're always different. And so we'll just make sure we tailor it to concepts that he's big on and feels comfortable with, and has gotten enough reps that he knows he can go out there and operate at a high level.
And as for Sunday and the performance against the Panthers, how did Marcus Mariota, that performance, how did Cliff Kingsbury feel about that?
No, just because I've seen the professionalism, I've seen the work he puts in, but all those reps he was getting was just the scout team. He's working the scout team, but you see the preparation. I saw how he operated in the spring, and it was basically like, hey, go do what you do. We weren't trying to hold him back or say, hey, play it safe. It was like, we're going to cut you loose, play fast, and go get after him. And that's what he does best. And I think he just embraced the moment. And he's only 30. He's still a tremendous talent, and I think his best football is still ahead of him. I've told him that.
And if you're Marcus Mariota, like, that's music to your ear. Someone who believes in you like that. We'll see what Marcus can do on Sunday. It's our pick 6 at 6. One more from Cliff Kingsbury before we flip the field and get what we need to know and get you what you need to know from Joe Whitt Jr. side of things. But this clip went a little viral today. This was fun. Ben Sinnott, the rookie from Kansas State, he, of course, is getting a little bit more involved in the offense. He's been blocking his face off for weeks on end here, and they finally got him a catch. And, Cliff, what was that play called?
Yeah, definitely. His first catch was a touchdown, and the play was called Taylor Swift, so you can't really beat that to start your NFL scoring career. So he was stoked about it. But he's been getting better and better. I think the game's slowing down for him. He's a tremendous talent. Can do a bunch of different things with his run game, pass game, very physical. Was well coached at Kansas State, so understands the run game scheme at a high level for being a guy who can be involved as much as he is in the pass game. So we're excited about his future.
I'm really excited to see what they do with Ben Sinnott, because I think on top of the blocking, like, he showed, obviously, hey, he can catch the football, but, like, he's a guy that can run after catch a little bit. And Zach Ertz, for as great as he's been in terms of getting open, like, he hasn't done a whole lot after the catch. So what happens when you get a guy who's a little more dynamic? And I'm not talking necessarily this year for Ben Sinnott. Like, this is a long-term project, and he and Jayden can grow up together. And, again, I'm not just saying this because they talked about the play call called Taylor Swift. Or just because he's a white tight end, and that seems to be how it goes in the NFL sometimes. But, like, the Mahomes and Kelsey growing up together thing has been really great for both of them. And when you have that knowledge of how a guy runs routes, exactly where he's going to be when you scramble, like, that is huge. And Jayden is going to grow up with Luke McCaffrey and Ben Sinnott and, some of these other younger guys on this roster. And it's going to be really fun to watch their chemistry over the course of years. And, there's guys that will come in next year that aren't here yet that'll be a part of that as well. Coming into the year, frankly, we thought it would be Jahan Dotson. And then that didn't go so well, and now he's not here anymore. But for Sinnott, in that role, learning from Ertz, more opportunities certainly to come. I'm excited to see how he grows in this offense. When we get back, Joe Whitt Jr.'s side of the football, how has Dante Fowler's play elevated this defense, and what else is he looking for as the Commanders prepare to take on the Bears this weekend? But first, let's get an update on the latest in the world of women's sports, presented by Wawa. Gotta have a Wawa. It is the Hoffman Show. We're live on the Team 980 from Capital One Arena. We're 30 minutes from now. You'll hear the Golden Pipes of Dave Johnson, along with Glenn Consor, who has his own Golden Pipes. Those two back for yet another season of Wizards basketball, and it tips off tonight here at Cap One. Every game on the Team 980. Will Dawkins, about 15 minutes away here on the show. Of course, the Wizards general manager. Right now, though, we continue with our Pick 6 at 6, giving you the top Commanders headlines of the day on the day where the coordinators speak. So you get a little Cliff Kingsbury at the top of the hour at 6 o'clock. Now we get you Joe Whitt batting in the 2-hole this week. Number 4 on our Pick 6 at 6, Joe Whitt talking about one of the guys who's played tremendous football the last couple of weeks, and a guy that he is very familiar with as he was in Dallas and has been with Dan Quinn, a couple of other spots as well. Here's Joe Whitt on Dante Fowler.
You know, I probably haven't highlighted him enough coming in here. He's a very physical player. Dante's always going to play on the edge. He's going to give you everything he has. But he has real juice to be able to get to the quarterback, move the quarterback. He's a guy that I don't necessarily have to pressure with when he's on the field. I know he's on the field. We could be more in a 4-man. I don't have to bring 5 elements with him on the field because he has the ability to beat the tackle. So I've been pleased with Dante, the physicality and the way that he plays. He's a lot like Oos in that way that he's always going to run through people. And if I tell him to run through that wall, he's going to hit it hard. So.
That's what coaches want. Like, do what I tell you as hard as you possibly can. And Dante Fowler is the kind of guy that does that. I think there's a couple of other things to watch on the edge this week when it comes to the Commanders. First, Dorrance Armstrong looks like he's going to be back. I don't even remember seeing him on the injury report. So if Dorrance Armstrong is back, that is huge for this team because Dorrance was playing really, really good football before he got hurt. Including the game he got hurt. He had a couple pressures, I think, in the first quarter and got hurt in the second, if I'm remembering correctly, a couple weeks back. And the Baltimore game changed after he went out. Like, he is their best defensive end, snap in, snap out. And he was starting to get a lot of pressure. So if they can get him back along with Fowler, that's great. That's 2 very good options on the edge, especially if Cleveland Ferrell is out, which he might be, as he was a DMP today in practice. The other thing to watch, though, is Jordan McGee being back could potentially open up more lanes for Frankie Louvu to be out on the edge. And while, as Joe Whitt said, he would like to not have to bring extra blitzers and things with Fowler on the field, putting Fowler at one edge and Louvu at the other, which they have done at times this year, gives them more options to actually do that while bringing blitzes. Technically not blitzes, but simulated pressures. You may have heard that term, where you bring 4 players, but not the 4 you'd expect. And because Fowler's a little more adept at dropping out, and Louvu is obviously more adept as a guy who plays off-ball linebacker at dropping out in his own coverages, or even picking someone up man-to-man because they're so athletic, that allows a potential confusion and some free runners along the offensive line. You get the slide going one way, we bring pressure from the other, and you can get some business done. So I'm very excited to see what they continue to do as they adapt that position, as Joe Whitt continues to find things that he thinks that his guys can do well, and we will continue to monitor that moving forward. Of course, the big thing Joe wants is takeaways. And number 5 in our Pick 6 at 6 is talking about just that. They got some last week. They got the Pick 6 from Dante Fowler. They got the other interception. They've gotten a couple more general the last couple of weeks. What led to the breakthrough in generating turnovers per Joe Whitt Jr., who every single week at the podium has been begging for that to happen?
They caught the ball. I mean, Tay's play, to be honest with you, Tay had an interception in the same part of his field in practice. He didn't go score with it. And so we put it up there, hey, you're going to have opportunity on this call to go score. And it happened in the same area, and he scored with it. Forbes, man, it was just a really nice job of how he read that out. He read 2 going away with the coverage that we were in, was able to slide inside, and it sort of messed the receiver up because he read it so quickly. I think the receiver at the time just stopped on the route and Forbes went and got the play. So it was Jason Simmons and Tommy Donatello's just done a nice job of communicating how to pass routes and how to communicate it, and the players brought it to life.
I think that's really cool insight on Forbes, and it's kind of funny to hear the way Joe says it. He's like, the receiver kind of died on the route, and we blame receivers for that stuff because quarterbacks throw with anticipation, and I'm not saying receivers are ever right to just die on routes, but sometimes you die because you're dead. And he should have been dead on that route, and he wasn't, and Andy Dalton threw it, and Forbes is right there. And hopefully that's a sign of things to come for Emmanuel Forbes. What has Joe Whitt Jr. seen from the second-year corner since he's come back from injury? He did have the DMP 1 week. What do we expect from Emmanuel Forbes moving forward based off what we've seen over the last couple?
Well, I think they've sort of changed what they've done, offensively from the first 2 games to now. And so, they're not necessarily running the same concepts that they ran.
Actually, Anthony, real quick, do we have the Forbes improvement before we move on to the Bears offense and what he's seen from Caleb Williams?
Oh, yeah, hold on.
And ready, aim, fire? Ready, fire, aim?
Don't got it.
Okay. Then maybe we'll play that bite tomorrow. You just have to tune in tomorrow. Anthony, you look very confused.
Yeah, because unless I say one of these wrong, I think that's possible.
We got an old mislabel situation. You just hate to see it. All right. Well, in that case, then let us move on to number 6 in our pick 6 at 6, and let that be Joe Whitt Jr.'s thoughts. The bite that Anthony had started playing, which would now make more sense because I will set it up correctly. The Bears' offense has kind of evolved the last couple of weeks since. First 2 weeks, a lot of struggle for Caleb Williams, throwing pretty high rate of incompletions, some turnovers, all kind of bad stuff. Last couple of weeks, he's diced some defenses. Some bad ones, but he's diced them. So, what has he seen out of the rookie quarterback? Here's Joe Whitt.
Well, I think they've sort of changed what they've done, offensively from the first 2 games to now. And so, they're not necessarily running the same concepts that they ran early on that he had some issues with. So that's where he's improved at.
Yeah, I mean, hey, good offensive coordinating. Here's the things my quarterback is bad at. Stop doing them. Here's things they're good at. Let's do those. And that's kind of what they've done. They found ways to run the football, deleverage him a little bit, gotten in some different things. So it's been definitely interesting to watch Shane Waldron figure it out. As for the challenges that the Bears offense presents, here's Joe Whitt Jr. on all that.
Well, every game you're going to have eligibles that are premium players, and they have a number of them. I think Moore is just a really good player that really hasn't got the credit over the years. He's a good catch and run guy. I've had just so many battles with 13. He just over the years when he was at the Chargers, man, 2015, he came to Green Bay and gave us a day, and so just a lot of respect for those eligibles. And so we have to just do a good job because the running backs running well. The screens, they run the screens as good as anybody in football, especially with Swift and Moore. So, we have to make sure that we do a great job of leveraging the screens. Screens play by 11 men. We have to set the edges inside out. If they get their bigs out to block our littles, our bigs got to come tackle their littles, And so we have to set the edge and be ready to go from that standpoint there.
They're a great screen team. And 13, by the way, Keenan Allen. That is a good football player, and he's the exact kind of route runner that makes me nervous. And there's a lot of stuff that I think Washington can do really well against the Chicago team. There's a lot of matchups from like that goes in Washington's favor. The thing that scares the daylights out of me, if I am Joe Whitt and I am Dan Quinn, is they got better dudes on the outside than the dudes we got. The good news is Dan Quinn and Joe Whitt Jr. know that. They're aware of their talent deficiencies. However, it is hard to make up for it when you've got, not only DJ Moore and not only Keenan Allen, but Rome Odunze and Cole Kmet and DeAndre Swift is a nightmare in space. So there is a ton to consider for Joe Whitt. A lot on his plate. All right, when we get back, though, we are back to the Wizards as we're live here at Capital One Arena. That's our Pick 6 at 6. We give it to you each day at 6 o'clock, talking Commanders here on the Team 980. But we are your home for Wizards basketball, and I went one-on-one with their general manager, Will Dawkins. You'll hear it next on The Hoffman Show. Capital One Arena ahead of the Wizards and Celtics tonight. It's the Hoffman Show here on the Team at 980. And we've been playing for you all our Wizards interviews all week long. If you missed any of them, they're still really great to listen to. They don't expire after today, even though the season starts. They're all in our podcast feed. Just search The Hoffman Show. But the last one we're going to play for you is with Wizards general manager Will Dawkins. And I started off on Media Day asking Will about what he learned in year one as general manager here in D.C. And you know, in the mold of you don't know what you don't know, what do you know now?
I would say how important having the right people around you really is, and the idea of developing those people even more. Like before, I was a little bit more focused on developing scouts, developing evaluators, developing the coaches, but we have to develop the whole organization. And I don't think I took it for granted, but I didn't understand the heavy lift that it was. And to be honest, now I have a better feel for my time and where I can allot my time. And last year was leveling up and just getting everything off the ground, and now I can really invest in the people in the different departments and grow our team organically.
So you like this question's coming from some comments that you made recently, including your press conference the other day. There seems to be.
Did you go to the press conference, by the way?
No, I was unable to go for reasons that I can tell you after the interview. I did, however, spend a 34 minutes of my Sunday morning yesterday watching it, so I did do my research.
I was just saying after you skipped out on the basketball, I was starting to find a trend there. But
No. There was a legitimate reason I wasn't there, which I will tell you later. However, Will Dawkins, there seems to be something about this job in particular, and I wanted to see if there's like a scab to pick at there. Is there something about this job, by the way, not saying that in a bad way, whether it's the city, whether it's the fan base, something that's unique to the Washington Wizards that maybe generically you expected XYZ about being an NBA GM, but then being the general manager of the Washington Wizards, you're like, oh, that is something that is unique to DC.
Oh, yeah. It starts with the fans. I think the connect. See the Michael we want, and I'm for a team that has a rich history in the past and has been in the city for so long, and then knowing how knowledgeable those fans are and how patient those fans have been, to ask them to be patient a little bit longer, that's something I really had to learn. I hadn't felt that. Like they've been feeling that. So it's a little different. Yeah,
no 50-win season since '79 is something that tends to get reminded about, and it's like. And honestly, like I think that's part of the reason some of your predecessors are no longer here is because they didn't fully appreciate and understand that. It's like, oh, you can't ask people that have been being patient to be patient. So you said on the street, or you literally just have people come like, hey, you're Will Dawkins, right? I got some notes for you.
A little bit more, thanks for coming on podcasts like this one. But more to like airports and when I'm in the arena or walking out of this area. But again, we're trying to win 50 wins multiple times, not just one time, and they understand that. So again, we're trying to find the path to charter towards sustained success, and for us, we're not going to rush that. And I ask them to continue to be patient with me, and I appreciate that they are.
Yeah. You mentioned the other day in that press conference that you guys are in the deconstruction phase. Yeah. You also mentioned there's some luck involved in the rebuild, which I think obviously the lottery is what it is. We have to do our part. Asset management becomes a big thing. So one question you were not asked about is the decision around Tyus Jones, going back to the trade deadline, and then ultimately how he just leaves for nothing in NBA offseason terminology. Right, but so I would love for you to explain the decision making around Tyus at the deadline, where I think the plan was to either re-sign him or explore sign and trade, and then ultimately how it plays out.
Fair question. I would say in terms of the phase of the team, the deconstruction phase, that's something where we got here and we knew this wasn't the building that we wanted to have. But there's still some good bones to that building, so let's find out what's there. And when we made the trade and acquired Tyus, it was like, let's fully understand him, have a full gauge. When we got through the trade deadline, he's someone that we wanted to keep around the team just for his value on the court, but also in the locker room. And part of deconstructing and laying that next foundation is having good role models in the organization, both on the court, but more so in the locker room. So Tyus served that, again, as you guys know, in free agency. it takes two to tango. You got to do what's right for you. We had conversations. I think you saw what we did draft night and bringing in a Malcolm Brogdon and bringing in 2 other ball handlers made it difficult, made it a little different. But again, I think he had to make the best decision for him. We value Tyus and very happy that he stayed with us. And then he embraced it the way he did. And I think he'll do well in Phoenix.
It is one of those things that I do laugh at sometimes. It's like, oh, he left for nothing. It's like, well, they got an extra couple months of basketball, which he was getting paid for, and
Exactly.
all of the things that came with that.
Cultural deposits he made.
Yeah.
He really did.
Do you have a story that really illustrates that for folks?
Say it again?
A story about Tyus and the cultural deposits?
Yeah, I would say right after the coaching change, we brought in a few guys and explained our why to that small group before we got in front of the team. And I said, any of you want to speak up and kind of explain like where we've been, but also where we want to go. And he gave an impassioned speech to the group. And at that point, you knew he's someone we wanted to be around for the rest of the season. So just continue to lead through that. So those are things sometimes fans don't see. We don't really pump out there, but Tyus is a leader, and he's going to do well for Phoenix.
I felt like I'm on Hot Ones now. Have you ever watched that? And they have the Explain
that?
The YouTube show, Hot Ones, with the Hot Wings.
Yeah.
And they have like the Explain That Graham segment. Now I'm just like, explain that thing you said at the press conference.
Here we go.
You talked about building things on the fly.
Yeah.
Which obviously generically I think most people understand what that means, but can you give an example of something that you figured out on the fly?
Man, there were so many. Building on the fly is like, hey, here's a problem. How do you assess it? I don't even know who to go to when you first walk in. Like, who is our head of medical when we have a medical issue? Who is our team doctor for these things? Why does this not function the way that I think it should make sense? So there were so many of those that you're just like, hey, let's learn the building on the fly. Let's learn our medical team on the fly. Let's learn our coaching staff. We're making a in-season change. What all goes into that? How do you message that to the players and media? So again, baptism by fire, I think they like to say.
Yeah, it's another way to put it.
It was a very interesting first year, but I think we grew as an organization because of it.
What's your process figuring out what needs to be done now and what can wait? Because there's a million things that you encounter. You're like, this is not working the way I want to, but not all of them have the same sense of urgency, and there's obviously trickle-down effects. You make one decision, that affects something else, and so you have to understand the scope of it before. I'm explaining this to the audience, not you. You obviously understand this. But how do you determine kind of the hierarchy of needs when you encounter so many things that you want to change?
Yeah, the collaboration with Mike Winger and myself, like he sets a foundation for what he wants and how he wants it to look, and then it's on all of us to try to carry that out. We're going to stay true to our core principles, and we're going to prioritize those. And when you don't see those clicking on all cylinders, you got to figure out how do we adjust that? How do we make the environment more repeatable? How do we add cultural deposits, whether that's people, whether that's resources, to make sure that we're addressing the culture and the environment that's stable enough first to build on. So that's probably why we did that.
Mention the coaching change. Obviously, last year you guys liked Wes going into the season. He's someone that I think Michael had interviewed out in L.A., so, there's some familiarity there, but ultimately you get into the season, and obviously it wasn't working because you guys made the change. How different is your approach this year going into the season through the lens of the coaching staff, with Brian as someone that you picked and that you're familiar with and know, versus someone where last year you had hope, but it was a let's see?
Yeah. I think our approach with our head coach is going to be consistent. Wes did a tremendous job in terms of the things we were asking him to do off the court and in the locker room and those deposits that he was making. So again, we're going to focus on that. Our relationship with Brian, it was helpful that we knew him before, but we also got to see him at the end of the season coach. But the main things are going to be the main things, and the connectivity with the players, holding them accountable, playing with the competitiveness, playing with the joy, with the passion, playing together. Those core principles are going to be the things that guide us. And Brian's great. He hired a really impressive staff. He didn't just hire his friends. He went out and found people that were opposite of him, thought differently, would challenge him. A lot of them had similar backgrounds in terms of player development. And from the few months that they've been here, they've really been able to relate to players. So I'm encouraged with the coaching staff. I had a long meeting with them the other day just to talk about expectations and standards, so we're all on the same page, and they get it.
How do you support him in his first year in that role, and especially if, it's not bringing your friends is ultimately a good thing, right? But that does mean you have to then build cohesion within your staff.
Correct.
So how do you support him in that way?
They took a retreat. I told them, get out of here. Like, go away. You guys really need to bond. We'll do a good job of that throughout on the road as well. But I think how I support him is just showing up, being there for him. He's someone that likes feedback. He actually likes it in real time as well. So he'll come sit down, breathe for a little bit, grab a bite to eat, post-game, most cities that we're in, and be like, hey, what'd you see out there? How could I have handled this differently? And I'll ask him different questions. So it's really open back and forth, and I think that's productive for us.
All right, last but not least, let's actually talk about the players that
Let's
are going to be on
do
the
it.
floor.
Let's do it.
Alex Sarr,
Yes.
number 2 overall pick. People have seen some highlights, et cetera, but you asking someone for a scouting report is a little different when it's the GM that drafted him. Give us, if you would, the Alex Sarr scouting report now, and then what you hope he grows into.
Oof. The reason, the second part of that is why I get so excited when I talk about Alex Sarr. I think when you see him on the basketball court this year, you're going to see someone who physically isn't what he's going to be 5-6 years from down the line. Offensively, he's going to be able to help our team right away. Just in terms of ball movement, player movement, he can bring the ball up, he can see, he can really pass, and he can score the basketball. I think he'll continue to improve as a scorer, continue to improve his shot as he gets more comfortable. But defensively, he's going to have an impact right away. He'll protect the rim. He'll be able to switch, force tough twos, force guys into situations. And we have to be a better defensive team. And we're putting a lot on him and Bilal to be young defenders for our team. Surprisingly, he's very vocal for a young defender. You'll see him out here talking, orchestrating, making sure guys are in the same spot. But he runs, he gets up and down, gets into picks, gets out of screens. He's rolling for lobs, but also catching it, making the right pass. So he's someone that is very fluid in his game and is only going to get better as we continue to give him more and more. But there will be those wild moments both ways. There's going to be some growing pains. But I think by the end of the season, there's going to be a lot that our fans can get excited about. And moving forward, it's only going to get better.
Last guy I'll ask you about, because I know you got to get running here in a second, is Jordan. Obviously, we've talked about his season last year and that it just didn't go the way he wanted to early, but how he stuck with it, how he worked. What realistically is the expectation for him this year, knowing the headspace he's in, knowing that he probably has a better understanding of his role, all those kinds of things that seem to be better this year, hopefully are better this year than they were last.
Yeah, I think you said it well when you said the first season and the second half of the season were completely different.
Yeah.
You just saw him more comfortable. I think you saw him with the ball a little bit more. It wasn't just always making plays, but just touching it, making the ball move, so he's getting a feel for it. Jordan's a big part of our team. He's come back early. He's been in the gym. He's mentoring Keyshawn, mentoring Bub, has these guys around him. He's got a really good energy to him right now. Hopefully you guys can talk to him and see that as well.
Yeah, we got him today, so I'm excited to talk to him.
I think Jordan's going to come out and be Jordan Poole. That's what I expect.
Well, Dawkins, everybody, season starts here in just a couple of weeks. Happy end of jump season.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
All right, that is Will Dawkins, the general manager of the Washington Wizards. And Anthony, it is about that time. It is time for the Wizards season to begin in 20 minutes or so. Look out at the clock out at Capital One Arena. Lots of Wizards fans here. I will say there's a lot of green here too, but who's counting? Anthony, how do you think the Wizards are going to do this season?
Over under, I think, if I had to guess, I think we win 27 games.
27? I think that's ambitious. It's just a reality. I don't love that, but that's ambitious. Tonight, by the way, starting lineups just in. Jordan Poole, Bub Carrington gets the start.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, because Brogdon's out, right?
Yeah. Well, I wonder if Bub would have started anyway. But Bub, Jordan, Bilal, Kyle, Sarr.
Interesting.
Interesting indeed. Brogdon out, Bay out. Obviously, Tristan Vukcevic is a two-way player. He's not active tonight. Kristaps Porzingis inactive for the Celtics as well. So they're starting lineup for them. Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford. Yeah, I mean, look, here's what I will say about this Wizards season. Here's my 30-second Wizards take before we get off the air. Last season was supposed to be fun, but not very good, and instead it was fairly miserable because they were non-competitive for a large portion of the year. By the time they finally got competitive after they made the coaching change, it didn't matter because they had been uncompetitive for so long. But this year should be fun because they should be competitive. Jordan is going to have the ball in his hands, which is worth the price of admission on both nights. Not because it's always great, because it's worth seeing what happens. Kyle Kuzma, same thing. And then defensively, they're just going to be able to be in a lot more games because Alex Sarr and Coulibaly are legitimate NBA defenders. And so we'll see what Bub is. If he's good, who knows what happens. Keyshawn George, I think, is going to play a role. There's an excitement to this team that I think is legit and real and will be much more indicative of what the future holds for the Washington Wizards. It all starts now, and you'll hear it here on the Team 980. Dave Johnson, Glenn Consor on the call. We send things upstairs next, and see you tomorrow on The Hoffman Show.